Hey everybody, Jake here from Bearded Gear, and I have a little bit of a different full review to do. This is going to be not only a review, but kind of a catch-up on how it's gone with my Hank experiment. If you watched my unboxing on these Hanks, which were sent to me by EDCLife426, whose Instagram will be linked down below, or this Hank, which was sent to me for my birthday by StarkSupplyCo, again, he'll be linked down below as well, then you'll know I set out to do another one of my kind of experiments. And I've done a couple of these small experiments over time where I'll spend at least a week with a piece of gear that I didn't carry before, that I've never spent real time with in pocket. And I really like doing these kind of experiments because I believe that one of these times I'm going to find a significant blind spot in my carry. I'm open to that. I'm open to one day finding a piece of gear that changes the way I look at it once I've experienced it, and that I then feel like I need moving forward. And that's kind of an interesting thing, right? Because obviously I'm hyper-focused on gear and knives and EDC related stuff. And so the idea that there's a piece of gear that I'm missing out on, it's like, I don't know, it's hard for me to wrap my mind around because I feel like I'm so aware of everything that's out there, but I'll find something and it's going to happen. And so it started with the Sebenza. If you haven't watched the week-long carry challenge I did with the Sebenza, you should check that out. I think they were some pretty fun videos. Unless you're a big Sebenza fan, then maybe don't watch it. It might upset you. Although, if I were to redo that challenge now, if I were to approach it having been doing videos as long as I have now, I'm not going to say that I was too nice or nicer than I should have been, or I was dishonest in any way. I was candid in those videos, but I would be a little more crass about it these days. I just, it's funny, since that time, the number of fanboys who've gotten mad at those videos, privately or otherwise, it's hilarious to me. But the point of that video was that there is a big number of people, there are a lot of people who consider the Sebenza one of, if not the, best EDC knives in existence in 2020. And I went into that challenge. You can watch, my first video in that challenge was me expressing what my thoughts were coming into it without having experienced the knife yet. It was like the day it arrived, it was like, this is what my thoughts are starting it, and then I did a midway check-in and I did one at the end. And long story short, I don't agree at all that that knife is one of the greatest EDC knives in existence. I think there is a plethora of way better options, personally. If that offends you, I'm sorry. That's my opinion on the Sebenza. But the idea was that there are a lot of people who really believe that, some of whom I largely find myself super parallel in our taste in knives. And so it was an interesting experiment to see if, even though I had never really wanted one, I had never been that interested in the Sebenza enough to think that it was worth the price tag or better than the other knives in that range, or that I considered its competition, all of that. I needed to see if I was wrong, right? I needed to figure that out. And so that was a good, solid challenge for me to carry it for a week, use it, and find out. And I think that's a fair thing to do. And I look forward to the time when I find a piece of gear that I was missing out on, because then I learn and I adapt and I start including it in my carry, and it becomes a thing that now I feel more prepared and better, right? I did it also with the Lynch pry bar, the Lynch All Access Pass that I borrowed from my buddy Joe, and I spent a week with that in pocket. I liked that way more than I liked the Sebenza, but I didn't find myself with all of these tasks that all of a sudden were way easier to do because I had the pry bar. I found myself instead looking for reasons to use it and still struggling to find reasons to use it. Other people carry those pry bars every single day and use them every single day because they live different lifestyles than I do, and that's fine. But for me, it wasn't a piece of gear that I felt like I needed. So what's interesting this isn't going to be a video of knives anyways, so if you're one of those people who gets mad that I'm not showing a knife to the camera the whole time I'm talking, kick rocks and watch something else. I don't care. The idea behind these types of experiments, what it really boils down to, I kind of think of like this. So I know a lot of people who aren't in the EDC hobby. I know way more people who aren't in the EDC hobby than are in it. My real life circle of people who are in my life, they're not into EDC. They don't carry knives every day. Some of them do, but not most of them. In fact, I know a lot of people who have never spent a day with a pocket knife in their pocket. I carry 2 every day, right? But I know plenty of people who are much older than I am and have lived entire full lives never carrying a pocket knife. And they've been happy, they've been fulfilled, they've somehow managed to open their mail. And I would like to think that if I were to hand a really nice, well-rounded, good quality EDC knife to one of those people, and they were open and willing to spending a whole week with it in their pocket and seeing how useful it was, how pleasant it was to carry, I would like to think that a lot of people, if they gave it a chance like that, they would come to find out that they do prefer having it on their person. That it's worth the couple of ounces and pocket space that it takes up to have it with them, because it's useful, it's pleasant, it's enjoyable to use, and they just like it maybe. Maybe a lot of people wouldn't feel that way. Maybe they'd be like me with the Sebenza. They'd be like, this is stupid. I was right. I don't need this. And who am I to say that they're necessarily wrong? That's an opinion thing, right? So as much as I think there are 1,000 arguments for always having a knife on you, and there's a reason why I'm the type of person who is into knives and gear beyond knives, I just think it's possible that there are other types of gear that I'm like that person who's never carried a knife before. And when I try carrying it, maybe I'll find that it is that useful for me. And I think that that will happen eventually. It might be something small and simple that's very finite that I can add to my carry, a way to tweak something that I previously thought was a bad way to do it, and then after trying it, it really works for me. Or it might be something as significant as a whole new piece of gear that I am going to start carrying. So the reality with this test is it's been, I think actually more like 2 weeks that I've had a Hank in my pocket every single day, all day, the entire day. And the question is, am I going to keep carrying one all day, every day? Is it going to be a new part of my EDC? And the answer is kind of. So I know that's a little anticlimactic, but I don't think I'll carry a knife literally I will carry a knife literally every day. I don't think I'll carry a Hank literally every day, everywhere I go. Like, if I'm in basketball shorts and I'm running a quick errand and I've just got a lightweight knife in my pocket, I'm not also throwing a Hank in my pocket. Just not. If I'm going hiking, I'm not going to have a Hank in my pocket, but I'll have a Hank in my pack. If I don't know, there are going to be certain circumstances where I don't find a Hank is worth having with me. But for most normal days, when I'm either around the house or running errands or whatever it may be that my day includes, if it's not going into the mountains or something like that, then absolutely I'll start carrying a Hank. Because turns out, for the last couple of weeks, I probably have only felt the real need to use a Hank maybe 10 times. And each time it's been for something that previously I would have just used my shirt for. I would have wiped down my knife blade with my shirt, I would have wiped down my phone screen with my shirt, I would have wiped down my camera lens with my shirt. Guess what? Those are all the activities I did with Hank. I don't find myself like wiping my sweat with it, because then I feel like it's dirty and I don't want to wash these all the time. I don't want to like make that a thing. I want to use them for very purposeful things. That's the way that it works for me. So even though in the couple of weeks that I've had these in pocket, I haven't even pulled them out every day to use them. The best thing about Hanks to me so far has been that I can just completely forget they're there. My back right pocket, all that really ever goes in it is I clip my keys to the belt loop that's back there, and sometimes I tuck them into the top of the pocket so that they don't just jingle around and rattle. And if I put a Hank in there, it doesn't get in the way of that at all. And it just feels like more pocket material. It doesn't bother me when I'm sitting down. It doesn't bother me when I'm walking around. If I'm hiking, it gets nasty and sweaty back there because my butt sweats like crazy while I'm hiking. So that's why I won't keep it there while I'm hiking. But even when I'm hiking, I have found that they're very useful to have for wiping my camera lens because my shirt gets nasty and sweaty. It's gross. And so to like wipe down stuff that's important to me, it's great to have a clean, nice, soft piece of cloth to do that with. And that's really all that it boils down to is like, yeah, they've been useful enough that I will start carrying them fairly often. Am I going to be the kind of guy who's collecting Hanks? No, I don't. I'm not into them in that way. Maybe if that changes down the road and I get into them, sure, you guys will be the first to know because I'm sure I'll show you. But it's not like going to be a side hobby of mine to like get into Hanks. I'm not like floored by them, but I appreciate the nice ones. All of these are very well made and they've been super pleasant to use. This one has like a really nice fabric back here for wiping screens. It feels like I don't know if I already said this, it feels like the material you get with like new glasses. These are just like soft all around and they're great for just wiping down everything. This one was given to me by my buddy who works at Koenig when I bought my first Arius, and so it's just a nice bigger Hank. This one I feel like is a little less pocket friendly because it is so big, but in certain pants or whatever it's great. And if I'm carrying my Arius, then cool, I get to flex with my Koenig Hank too. Like there's some fun behind it. These rec rags are super nice. This is a perfect option of one that I can keep in my bag and specifically use for wiping down my camera lens and my knife blades, stuff like that. But with this new camera, I really want to be deliberate about taking care of it. And so, like, these are really handy. I already knew that Hanks could be handy for like wiping down knife blades because I keep them by my knife case, and if I've got a dirty knife, I'll wipe it down there. So it's just nice to have one with me when the need arises, because I can truly just basically forget that it's even in my pocket until I need it. It's like the easiest piece of gear to possibly carry. It's just fabric that goes in your fabric pocket and it like just disappears. So I guess that's going to be that. I will carry Hanks a lot, but not always. It's not going to be like I have to have a Hank or I'm going to lose it. Like, if I went somewhere without a knife on me, I'd feel really naked. I'd feel wrong if I was somewhere just without a knife. In fact, in the rare cases where like I've gone to an event with my wife or something and we're in a place where you have to go through armed security and you're not allowed to have a pocket knife on you, I feel weird when there isn't a knife in my pocket or two. So Hanks aren't going to be that way. I'm not going to be like, oh man, I forgot my Hank, my whole day's going to be off. It's not that essential to me, but they're nice. They really are. So there's your typical bearded gear, trying to be balanced way of approaching it. But I don't know if you guys are into Hanks or if you're not, but if you haven't tried them, maybe do what I did. Maybe get a Hank, try it for a week, and you'll find out whether you like it or you don't. Hanks aren't that expensive. I'm sure there are some that are kind of expensive, but you can get a cool Hank for pretty cheap from a lot of small makers who are really cool guys, and you can be supporting somebody in the EDC hobby. Get one to try out, and if you like it, great. If you don't, no harm, no foul. You know, it's like, it's not that hard of a piece of gear to try, and in my experience, you're probably going to find that you don't mind carrying it at all. Whether you use it a ton, I think the odds go up a lot if you're someone who wears glasses. I hardly ever even wear sunglasses, so maybe that's part of why I never really like felt that drawn to them. But if you're in sunglasses all the time, or you wear actual glasses for your vision, it can be super useful. There's a lot of ways that I can see a Hank being useful for people, even more than it is for me. But for me, there's a couple of tasks that make it worth it enough to carry it relatively regularly moving forward. So there you have it. That'll be my full review on these Hanks and how it was carrying them and whether I'll carry them moving forward. There's a lot of words to get all that out. So sorry to those of you who hate my rambling, but joke's on you if you watch this whole thing and you hate my rambling. This has been fun. I will catch in with you all later, and we'll see what my next thing is that I decide to do like a week plus tryout with. Because so far I've done these, the Lynch pry bar, the Sebenza, oh, and I just did the 940, the Benchmade 940, and the Hanks are the thing that did the best. They're the thing I'm going to actually use moving forward, so that's funny. Anyway, this has been fun. I appreciate it, guys. I will talk to you very soon.